Welcome back to the channel. Lately we've been having some very cold temperatures, and with that we're having more issues. I'm seeing more and more cold weather, extreme cold weather issues popping up on the snowblower forums, on the snowblower enthusiasts on Facebook also. So let's get to that. I'll go over the four most common issues that are popping up under extreme cold, and I will also I'll leave the best for last. Oh, thank you for subscribing to the channel. It really helps us out here, and if we saved you money on any of our videos, please subscribe. And at the end of this video, I'm going to have an important announcement, and some of you are going to like it. Some of you are not going to like it. So stay tuned to the end to hear it, okay? Now let's get to it really well. Okay, one of the most common problems I'm seeing with this very cold weather are stuck cables. The cable is stuck, frozen. You can't get the handle down, or the cable kinks up underneath. Same thing with the chute cable not working. It's kinking up, it's frozen. The throttle cable is stuck. The throttle linkage may be stuck. The choke may be stuck. And there's usually a fairly easy solution. You can warm up the machine if in a shop of a garage if you have one, or you can pull the boot off. Can you see? I pulled the boot off, and I will use some cable and chain lube. I like liquid wrench. And sometimes, in extreme cases, I've used de-icer, windshield de-icer. And what happens usually is that if there's a break or a crack in your sheath, moisture's going to get in there and freeze. And over time, it will turn to rust, and eventually you'll have to change the cable. But usually when you have a frozen cable due to very, very cold weather, you can spray some cable lube down here or some de-icer. One gentleman, member of our Facebook group, mentioned heat, the stuff that you can put in the gas. I've never tried that, but it's worth a try. If you don't have a garage or a shop to warm it up, you can use a hair dryer or a heat gun or a heat lamp. That's what I had to do with this machine over here. I had to use a heat lamp on it. I'll tell you why in a minute. But that's a pretty common issue with the very cold weather, is the cables. Now, before you use your machine, what do I always say? You check the oil, you warm it up for a couple minutes, because you don't want to use the machine, right off the bat at full speed. And you quickly check all the functions. That way you know everything's working, okay? Now, I went over the choke and the throttle linkages. Sometimes I did a video on this the other day. You could have a stuck throttle because of the ice. This happened on this machine. The linkage froze up. I had to take this off. I had to take the top plate off, which is really easy. Then I had to pull the elbow. The throttle linkage and the choke linkage was frozen solid due to ice. So I did put some de-icer on it. I couldn't get it into the garage to put a heat gun on it, but eventually it came free, and it works fine now. Now, another thing you want to do, if you have your machine in the shop on a concrete floor, or if it's on the floor, between uses, all the ice and snow is going to melt, and it's going to refreeze, and you could freeze up your tires or your tracks to the floor. So you want to make sure you break it free, okay? break it free. Well, I got this in the pedal down. You want to break it free. Make sure that it's not frozen to the ground, because otherwise, when you try to move it, you could have a breakdown. You could break a pin, or you could break one of the pins on the wheels, or you could do some kind of damage. Now the same thing goes for the impeller. Excuse me. I just started using this today. So there's a bunch of ice and snow in here, and you can see some ice and snow in the impeller. And what will happen overnight is that the impeller will freeze to the drum. Now I know there's a drain plug in there, but if it's very, very cold, that drain plug is going to get plugged up and freeze, and then your impeller is going to be frozen to the drum. Now what happens when you start the machine up and try using the augers, the machine most likely will die. It will conk out because the impeller won't move. The belt inside may be spinning and burning up. I've had a lot of people tell me, I smell burning rubber. What's going on? Well, that's your belt turning on the inside wheels there, but it's not turning your impeller. So what I usually do, especially when it's very, very cold in the morning, with the engine off, of course, I will turn my impeller just a few inches just to make sure that it's free. Before I put away, I usually clean it out, clean out as much as I can with a brush or a tool. But still, a bunch of water might get in there and freeze up your impeller. So I make sure the impeller's freed up. The other day, I forgot to do that, and the engine stalled out. And I knew exactly what was going on. It was the belt not spinning, but the belt got clogged up too on the wheels and conked out the engine. So that's another thing that we've been seeing. People blowing belts. If you do that enough times, just think, oh, you'll break free. Just keep the handle down. Just keep the handle down and it'll break free after a few seconds. Well, meanwhile, your belt's burning up a little at a time. And if you already have a belt that's kind of old, it's going to snap on you. There's nothing more fun of changing an auger belt in the middle of a snowstorm. You got to take the bucket off and everything. So this a couple minutes will save you a lot of time. Now the last thing, but the most common thing is no start. When it's very, very cold, you may have issues with starting problems. And it happened to me the other day on this machine. Usually I can give it a little splash of starting fluid. I'll take this off. Just a slight splash of starting fluid or carburetor spray just to help it get going, the choke. Make sure the choke's not stuck open, that you close the choke, see? And usually that will work. But the other morning, I took this machine out for the first time, and it would start for a second and then stall out, and I'd spray a little bit of more starting fluid and run for a couple seconds, stall out. So I knew it wasn't getting any gas. So what I had to do, and this is an unusual fix, folks, but what I had to do is I had to take the bowl off. And there was water in my gas. And that's another thing. You want to make sure you've got fresh gas with the stabilizer in it. But I had old gas from last year, and this was in storage in the back with a tarp over it. And there was water in the fuel. Well, water is heavier than the fuel, so it settles down to the bottom. So there was a bunch of water in my bowl. It was all frozen. The float was frozen. And what I did was I put it up on its nose What I did was I put it up on its nose, removed the bowl, and since it was in the backyard, I put some de-icer. I soaked it with some de-icer. Was able to get all the ice out, get the float moving again, get the fuel moving. I made sure the fuel was coming out before I put everything back together. Checked the oil, of course, made sure it wasn't no gasoline in the oil. And it started right up, and I've been using it for the last couple of days. Not sure, I think of something else. You know, things are going to be tough to move. Maybe your chute might be frozen, so you need a little lubrication down here. There's going to be a bunch of ice down here, you know, so that's going to freeze up on you maybe. You know, if you get a hairdryer or a heat gun, or you can leave it in your, look at all that snow in there. I should clean that out before I put it away. You know, if you can put it in a heated shop or a garage between uses, that's the best case. But not everybody can do that. So take a couple minutes. Those are the 4 things that I'm mostly seeing. The hard start is the most common problem. Old gas, water in the gas. It's usually not the plug. It could be flooded. We got a video on how to, if you tried pulling the starter, you know, 10 times and you got the choke on, you might have flooded the engine. We have a video on how to start a flooded engine, which is really easy. And works about 100% of the time. Let me tell you really quick. You shut off the gas. I mean, you shut off the key. You take your choke off. You pull this 8 to 10 times. You're starting. That cleans out all the gas out of the cylinder and dries the plug. Then you turn your key back on and then choke it and then pull it, and usually it will start on the first pull. All right, let me get to my announcement.